Welcome to Amazing Business Radio with best-selling author and customer service and business expert, Shep Hyken. Shep will talk with some of the smartest thinkers in business to help make you more successful in your professional and personal life. This is Amazing Business Radio with Shep Hyken.
Hello, everybody. It's Shep Hyken here. We're back with another episode of Amazing Business Radio. Very excited today because Peter Mullen, the Chief Marketing Officer of Interactions, is going to be talking about us. Interactions actually is a customer support software platform used by major brands that is supported by AI, artificial intelligence, ChatGPT, topic of the day, but you'll be very interested in exactly how it's being used. And just a couple quick announcements. If you've got an amazing customer service story or you have a question, please reach out to me on any of the social media channels. I'm pretty much everywhere. If it is a question, use the hashtag #AskShep. I'll either answer it on this show, in my newsletter, on my podcast, which is this show, or on my TV show, which is Be Amazing or Go Home. And episodes can be found on Amazon Prime, Apple TV, Roku, or you could just go to beamazing.tv. That's beamazing.tv. All right, let's get into the interview. Peter, welcome to the show.
Great to be here, Shep.
Well, I'm excited. We are talking with somebody that has been involved with a company, Interactions. By the way, how long has Interactions been around?
We are at our 18th year.
18th year. So for 18 years, your company has been creating basically AI type conversations where a customer calls, talks to a machine, and the machine either gives an answer or gets that customer to where they need to be. Is that a good way of saying it?
Great way of saying it. We are
okay. There's a better way.
There's a better way, but it's a great way to say it because you can say it fast. How can I help you today? That's what we ask, and that's what we begin to solve for. So we're OGs in the conversational AI market, and
OG meaning
original gangsters.
Okay,
I'm
I like
hijacking a
that.
statement.
I thought it was going to be something far more industry specific than original gangster.
The premise that we'd started this company on was that AI was a brand new entity back then that could have a ton of growth and application efficacy over time. And when we started our company with a simple concept of how can I help you and have an automated assistant then guide you through that process, we had a very unique value proposition, and we had a human in the loop from day one. And Shep, what that means is that you think about it, the scale across the world of contact centers, the millions of people who are engaged in a customer experience that is going to be delightful and great. We took away a lot of the manual work, but put a human in the loop whenever there was a friction point when the automated attendant had trouble. A human would nudge the conversation forward and does that today. Now, over time, of course, AI has grown exceptionally well and exponentially in the last several years. So the human component for us is less important than it was previously, but it gives us this great perspective and a market position that there needs to be a human in this exciting moment in time where generative AI and a lot of other technologies are all pushing forward.
So when you say human, let me ask, does the AI somehow figure out that the customer is not getting the answer they want and automatically alert the human agent or somebody at the company? Or how does that work? Because that, by the way, has been one of the things that intrigued me most or frustrated me most with some people and companies is that, so let's talk intriguing because I'm a more positive guy, is that the best systems, the AI would say, okay, this person is not understanding what I'm saying. Let me just seamlessly send it to a human.
And in a nutshell, that's exactly our premise of what works the best. And so this is the type, there are many great solutions out there in the market. Ours is very focused on providing a great concierge white glove experience for the brands that need that the most. And not every brand needs that. But in our case, it is about friction and removing it. And it's about delivering resolution quickly and efficiently. So exactly what you just said. Let's say there is we're a voice-led company, and we are omni-channel, but voice is where we spend most of our time. And let's say there's ambient noise during a phone conversation, or there might be a heavy accent, or oftentimes hundreds, thousands of times per month, we have a baby in the background when someone is trying to just change a doctor's appointment or reschedule an airline reservation, etc. All of that causes a friction moment where the intention of the customer may not be understood. In that split second, that snippet of conversation, typically a second or two, maybe a little bit more, will get transported to a live human agent somewhere in the world who will say, aha, that's what she's trying to say. They will nudge the conversation forward. And for the user, the customer, the client, the one that we care about, it is just a minimal time break, typically demonstrated by the tap, tap, tap of a keyboard. You may have heard this before.
Right.
And then she moves forward. What it results in is what we believe is a symphony and an elegance between the human and the machine. Typically in America today, North America that is, a person gets ticked off between 1.5 and 3 utterances or engagements. That's when you press 0 and you start yelling for an agent or for an operator.
Agent, representative,
yes.
representative. Yes.
Oftentimes with beep, beep, beep agent before, because you're already at the point. So what's a logical outcome of that? When you finally get an agent on the phone, this is somebody who is probably overworked, who is multitasking, who is waking up each day to try to solve problems for a customer and a client. And now you have an angry client or customer who it just wants to get resolution fast. We take away all of that anxiety, angst, frustration. Typically, with this type of solution that we offer, we get about 6 to 8 utterances before the conversation ends. And it doesn't end because it's frustrated. It ends because across verticals, sizes, and activity, what you're trying to solve for, typically 8 engagements is what solves the problem for you. And if we can do that from an automated perspective, wow.
So I want to make sure I understand. You refer to utterances. Give me a clear definition of an utterance.
This would say, I need to change my airline reservation.
Okay, that's a request. Is that the same thing as an utterance?
Yeah, and the reason that I make that distinction, we use the phrase utterance inside our company, is because there's a lot of different types of an engagement. And an engagement could be talking to a customer and then texting them a dual factor authentication text so they can log into an account and then multitask on it. So we just try to simplify it in the voice channel by using utterance.
Great. Okay. But now you mentioned after 3 utterances, customer typically gets upset. Is that because, and I'm sure my listeners are going to be sick and tired of this example, but it's my favorite example. I'm trying to buy a computer docking station, and I asked the question about the docking station, and the chat comes back to me, and this was chat. This was typed out, so there's no way they could have misunderstood because of baby in the background, because of a thick accent, and I perfectly spelled everything. That comes back and says, which computer do you want to buy? And I said, I don't want to buy a computer. I want to find out if when I put the computer in the docking station, will it also charge the computer, or do I need a separate cord to charge the computer? And it comes back with the exact same, which computer do you want to buy? And about that time, and by the way, I'll add that in our customer service research, let's see, 56% of customers have called support and repeatedly screamed agent and representative and then finally hung up. 32% have yelled at a customer support agent, and 24% have actually cussed at that agent, which means approximately 76% are lying. But no, I'm just kidding about that. But, you know, there's this obvious frustration. And here's what I'm hearing from you. And I want to reiterate it, I guess, or regurgitate it. I love it. I want to put it into my words. Most of the time, the chat that you're in or the voice interaction that you're in sends you to a live agent. And what you're telling me is that you keep people in that channel and you just have the agent help the machine get back on track.
That is correct. That's what we do.
I love that.
It works beautifully. And I intentionally use the word symphony because when I look at it and I think about all these different pieces coming together, I believe this is the future with everything that we're going to be doing. And generative AI is hanging over all of us as exciting, terrifying, confusing. From day one, by invoking the necessity of having a human engaged in this process. We are anchoring ourselves as we move forward. I don't care what industry you're in. We're talking about CX right now. But overall, we're anchoring ourselves in this basis, this foundation, that the most important computer in the entire mix is going to remain the human brain. And that's essential, I believe, for how we think about these things.
I love that. So here's what I want to do. I want to take a break. And here's the question I'm going to ask you when we come back. Will AI take away jobs? Will it eliminate need for, huge call centers and customer support centers? Will it take away jobs from salespeople? Because that seems to be what everybody's worried about. I see so many articles being written about how this is the beginning of the end of so many careers. I don't know how you feel about it, but I want to find out. And then I'll, of course, share how I feel about it. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we're talking to Peter Mullen, CMO of Interactions. You're on Amazing Business Radio. Don't go away. One of my favorite sayings is that customer service isn't a department, it's a philosophy. And it's a philosophy that must be embraced by everyone in the organization all the time, and that's 24/7. So if customer service is important to you, and I know it is, then you will love our virtual training, the ultimate on-demand customer service and experience training program that you can access anytime, anywhere. Now, the course content applies to everyone, regardless of position and responsibility, from senior executives to the most recently hired and everyone in between. You'll discover tips, ideas, and strategies that won't cost your company a fortune, but will produce what I call moments of magic, those positive experiences, and it will happen at every level of your organization. So go to Customer Service VT. That's V as in virtual, T as in training. That's customerservicevt.com. It's time to get customer focused.
You're listening to Amazing Business Radio with best-selling author and customer service and business expert, Shep Hyken.
We are back on Amazing Business Radio talking with Peter Mullen, the CMO of Interactions. And we've been talking about really incredible technology. Over the years, I have been so lucky to work with great companies who use AI as the backbone on their platform to be able to create a better customer experience. I went through cognitive college with IBM as they were rolling out Watson, and I was learning how to use really conversational AI in the form of chat, hence a chat bot. And here we are talking to the CMO of a company that has been doing this for almost 18 years, you say, right, Peter? Yeah. So that's a long time. I wonder if I go back 18 years ago, which would be about 2005, were people talking about AI back then? I'm not sure. I know, and you and I joked about this at the break. When we go on Netflix and we see a show about AI and robots, and I'm going to let you use the line. You usually envision what?
Feel like I will click on Netflix, and at any moment an AI robot is going to be holding me by the throat and lifting me out of the couch these days.
Will AI ruin the world? Well, I don't know if it will or it won't, but this chat GPT thing's pretty exciting. But hey, here's the question we started with as we rolled out to the break. Will AI take away jobs?
The answer is yes. And it will do so faster and more dramatically than most of us are ready for or anticipate. I believe, and this is me talking right now, that generative AI is going to make the birth of the internet look quaint. That's how large, that's how distributed, that's how massive I believe this shift is.
I agree with you.
We've, Shep, we live in an incredible time where time itself is constricted and applications of new and innovation have become almost commonplace. So it is worthwhile for us to take a deep breath and see how far we have come. We just described and wondered when AI started becoming a thing by talking about a service that's now 20 years old, Netflix, that transformed the entire entertainment industry. When we look at where things are going, where things have gone, we're in what's called a disruption moment. Schumpeter has it from an economic standpoint, and I would encourage people, if they're interested, just to think about what happens in moments of disruption. But it's out with the old, it's in with the new, and we, as people, as now I'm talking about humanity and humankind, we've got to be in front of this and be very thoughtful about what changes are happening and how we can maximize people, their talents, use their energy, their creativity in the right way. I have a ton of thoughts on that, but I'll pause there because I'm talking about a couple big things right now.
Well, I think that you cast a little gloom and doom over the opportunity or jobs being taken away, the opportunity to stay employed. And I'm going to push back a little bit on that, in that I believe that, yes, AI, no doubt, is a disruptor. So is cable TV. So is Netflix instead of Blockbuster. People, did they lose their job? Sure. They just went to other retail stores. When CDs came along, the companies that made cassette tapes had to lay off their people because they were no longer making cassette tapes. Those people all found jobs somewhere else. In the customer support center, and even on your website, somewhere on there, I saw that I don't believe that AI being used for customer support is going to take away all the customer support jobs. It's going to actually allow the humans in customer support to focus on higher level relationship building and, I say higher level problems and questions, and then the relationship building that comes as a result of that. So, and I always say this again, people who've watched the show or listened to the show know, video did not kill the radio star. And to be very, think about that. The Buggles back when MTV was first, it's the end of radio. Their videos are it's now on TV. Guess we're going to lose radio. And here we are, Sirius XM and streaming. Streaming is going to kill regular radio. And it may be, it's still doing that and working on it, but it's still radio per se. It's just a different kind. And those same studios are using the new technology to build. But, I believe that, yes, there will be some lower level jobs might be lost, replaced. Hopefully people see a career path who come to work for these support center jobs and see that they're going to be moved into higher levels of support. So anyway, that's just my take on, and ATMs. I love this one too. Barclays, the bank back in the 1960s, rolled out ATMs. They said no more tellers. Well, the last bank I went into had 3 tellers. And by the way, the ATM was in the lobby where like the vestibule, I guess is what you call it, where if it's a cold night and it's late at night, the bank's not obvious open, but you go into that little area and you get your money. No teller needed. But when I go during the day, there are tellers.
I love this. You completed the second half of my thesis brilliantly. We're actually very aligned on how we think about this. When I say this is going to kill jobs, I am actually intentionally being a troubadour. I'm sharing my own view that this is so disruptive that we have to do exactly what you just said. We've got to get on our toes. We've got to be thinking about what the new world looks like. When you talk about that incredible song in the early 80s, Video Killed the Radio Star, now you look at today, Spotify, right, where each one of us now has at the tip of our fingers 1,000,001 songs that we can choose from. And every one of those artists is getting a small amount of residual money every time we listen to it. We've opened up an entire ecosystem to folks where no longer is there a megastar, sorry, Taylor and Adele, but there are now hundreds of thousands of people who could not have made a living with music had they not had things like Spotify. Are they making as much? Is it as standardized as it was for the last 50 years? No, it's different. It's unique. And that's where we are with AI and what it represents. How do you succeed in a world run by robots? Well, you own the robots, Shep. And that doesn't mean that you are sitting in the top 1% and you are controlling companies. It means that you're on your toes and you're thinking about how can I take this technology and how can I maximize it for my benefit? Let me give you 2 examples. I'm in marketing, right? This week, I used 3 platforms, and I'll mention them. I used ChatGPT 4. I used Jasper to create content, to test it. I used Jasper to then refine the content, help my tone of voice, and change up some of the sentences. I then used diffusion, stable diffusion, to create some imagery around that. This was all in 45 minutes of just having an empty window in my calendar. That type of engagement is happening everywhere. Many companies are ahead. Many people have never heard about it. But that's a shift for me. And here's what I did as the output. I gave it to my writers, and I said, guys, don't be scared about this. Harness this. Take this tool, and now I've just saved you the first 3 hours of your work. Now make me a better piece of content out of it.
Yep. And I just wrote an article maybe 2 months ago called How Writers Can Use ChatGPT, which is on Forbes. If you go to Forbes.com and type in Hyken, Hyken, you'll see a bunch of articles, but type in Hyken ChatGPT. Here's an interesting stat. I just pulled this up while we were talking. How powerful is ChatGPT? How recognized? So we're doing an informal poll, and I realize this is happening this week. This episode's going to come out a few weeks from now. And the informal poll is asking, because if I'd have asked this in November, it would have been a completely different answer. Are you aware of ChatGPT? Well, I can't remember exact. So we're going to talk about ChatGPT. I've never heard of GPT. B, I've heard about ChatGPT and have never used it. 3, I know about ChatGPT and I do use it. And right now, the majority of people are saying I've heard about it but never used it. Okay, a big majority. But here's what's interesting. How long did it take for them to get 100 million people to sign up? This is big. 100 million's big, right? Okay. Well, look, my phone just closed on here. Let me open her up again. There it is. Uber was pretty quick. It took them 70 months to get to 100 million people that knew about them and were using them. Okay. Think about that app. Okay. Spotify, by the way, only took 55 months. Pinterest, I don't know if anybody still pins anymore, but Pinterest took 41 months, 3 years and 5 months. Instagram, 30 months, which is 2 years and 6 months. TikTok, which is even bigger than Google right now, it only took 9 months for them to get 100 million users. And ChatGPT, 2 months, 60 days, 100 million users. Think about how popular, just like you said, I can't remember the exact words, but you said the internet. Oh, you said this will make the internet look quaint.
Yeah.
Such a good choice of words.
Indeed. And it is, the benefit of a technology like this for mass adoption is that it's easy to use. In seconds, it's downloadable. Testing it becomes a parlor game the first time. First time I introduced it to my parents, who are both in their 80s, they described having an argument with one of their friends. And I said, let's see what a robot will describe for you as a solution around it. And suddenly they were hooked and they were engaged. And I learned several days later, they went to a dinner party and they showed people that particular text. That's what virality looks like. That's what true hooked really means.
How much fun
this
is that?
Fast.
That's wow. My favorite thing to do right now, I have an avatar. It looks just like me. It even sounds like me. And I can take one of the scripts that I put into my teleprompter that I do my weekly videos with, and I could actually dump it into ChatGPT and actually translate it into Spanish. And then I ask a second ChatGPT window, what grade would you give this for grammar if you were a college Spanish professor? And it gives me an A, and then I know it's legit. And I send it to the company that renders my videos for my avatar. And an hour later, I have a perfectly executed Spanish script, lips perfectly synced to the words, my expressions, and it's my voice on top of it, which is really bizarre. But I could do it in Spanish, German, Greek, Hindi, all these different languages. And I don't speak any of them, but boy, I got a perfect accent when I do. Somebody said, now what happens when the client says, do your speech in Spanish? No, I'm not trying to fake you out. I'm just trying to make my information more accessible. And by the way, I want to go full circle in a minute, but before I do that, interactions, the accent doesn't matter. The language, from what I understand, doesn't matter either. Is that correct?
We work primarily in English, of course, because that's where most of the clients live. They live inside the English language modalities. We have access to about 20 plus languages. We have partnership with a company that provides additional languages for us. So language, which was this great barrier for us over hundreds, thousands of years, is actually disintegrating as a barrier. So no, language is not an issue for interactions, but because we do what's called an LLM, a large language model for our solutions, each one is customized for each customer. A hotel has different needs than a hospital for what the customer is trying to engage with. Our LLMs are all unique and all different. And if we have, let's say, a Hispanic-based population, we will have our language intent analysts, and we will have our voice mapped to specifically what the person needs who is listening to it. This language / accent / breaking down borders is one of the most amazing things I think in
really
customer
is.
experience right now.
Yep. Simultaneous translation is what's coming next. I could talk to somebody over in Japan. They don't speak a lick of English. I don't speak any Japanese, but when I talk, that's what they hear is Japanese. That's where we're heading this direction. I want to go full circle and just give me a quick summary, and then I'm going to get into my last question. But at the beginning of the conversation, and I got sidetracked because I wanted to talk about interactions. I asked you why you thought at this point customer experience becomes the #1 brand differentiator. Again, I've been saying this for years and years, but it just seems like companies are finally recognizing it. So give us your take on that real quick, and then we'll get into my wrap-up question.
Yes, and I have read your early writings on this, and you are on the forefront, and I am baffled and boggled that this is not what everyone is talking about in the board meetings. And here's my point. I believe within the next 10 years that the #1 predictor of enterprise recurring revenue will be customer success, customer satisfaction, however we measure it. I believe in a world of personalization and customization, and we've all been trained to be personalized by that amazing robot in our pocket or in our purse. It's our phone. We've all been trained to expect instant gratification, instant personalization, and complete customization. This is such a big movement that businesses are paying more attention to it. They're not paying attention to it fast enough. I believe I'll have the ability to change any vendor I want in almost every circumstance of my life within 10 years. And if I'm not happy with the satisfaction they're giving me, I am gone. We have stats that we came up with that over 90% of the customers will leave you after one negative experience. Companies cannot afford to make mistakes. We need to move them toward perfection. And where's it going to have the rubber meet the road? It's going to have the rubber meet the road in the board of directors meeting. That's what I believe.
Yeah, I think the leadership needs to set the tone for how the service and experience is going to take place all the way to the front line. And really, it's not even about being a department. It's about being a culture within the organization that drives the customer experience. All right, last question. And I warned you this was coming. Is there one last nugget of information that you would like to share with our listeners today?
I have this philosophy around velocity and impact, and it's pretty simple. In my marketing department at my company, I spend a lot of time with the phrase 0 to 1. We're all starting at 0 with everything we're doing, whether it's something gargantuan like what we're talking about today, or it's something small like just trying to knock things off your checklist. 0 to 1. Move and commit yourself from starting and getting to 1, and the rest will start to flow faster.
I like that. It's kind of like flipping a coin. It's 50-50 if it'll land heads or tails. But what happens if it's 5 heads in a row? What's the likelihood that you're going to get tails on the 6th one? Oh, people would say it's much more likely. It's supposed to be 50-50. Obviously, it's still 50-50. It starts when you flip, not how many times you flip. So love that analogy. That's great. Thanks for being on the show, Peter. Great interview, great insights. I really appreciate you.
Great to be here. Thanks.
All right, everybody, that wraps it up. Another interview on Amazing Business Radio. I will be back next week, and I promise you we'll have another great guest. Until that time, this is Shep Hyken reminding you to always be amazing.